get to the freaking point. The first 3 seconds of your video are all that matter, and this is why. This is how people use social media. They scroll, generally with their thumb, right? You need to catch their attention and stop them in their tracks, and only if those first 3 seconds really stand out are they gonna have any chance of sticking around to watch the rest of your video. So make sure you tell them exactly what the point is about. If you saw this video in the first few seconds, you know what I'm talking to you about. Make sure you add subtitles so they can see it if they don't have their sound on, and even add graphics to really accentuate your point. Remember, get to the freaking point in those first 3 seconds, and you will get a lot more views, and they'll stick around for a lot longer. That was your weekly marketing tip, and this is The Real Marketing Show.
Whoa, finished that one pretty quick. Do you like the way Nick's video turned out at the beginning of this show? Would your business benefit from a super slick, targeted video ad fully produced in just 2 hours? We can make that happen. Head to samedayvideoads.com and reserve your slot today. We script, shoot, edit, and post a Facebook ad targeted at your ideal customers in just over 2 hours. Usher your business into the 21st century and start using high-quality video advertising and affordable Facebook ads today.
And now it's time for our featured interview. Here with Nate Johnson, the president of the Missouri Association of Realtors, the director of agent development at RedKey, and also the president of the Real Estate Solutions Group. So Nate, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Nate.
Thanks for joining us.
Happy to be here.
I want to start out by, I just listed a lot of titles there, right? So let's kind of break them down one at a time. So you're in the final month of being the president of Missouri Association of Realtors, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So how has that been?
It's been an amazing experience. I've been blessed to have been given an opportunity to help lead our great association. And, I take that very seriously because the work that we do at the Missouri Association of Realtors, also at the local St. Louis Association of Realtors and the National Association of Realtors is very important. We work to protect private property rights and really work to make sure that the work that we do as realtors is done unabated so that we don't have to have a lot of regulation and a lot of challenges that a lot of other states have. So it's an investment of time, a significant investment of time.
I bet, yeah.
But this industry has given so much to me that I feel that it's my duty to make sure that I'm giving something back.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So it sounds like there's a lot of maybe politics involved. So tell me about the kind of people you end up interacting in that position.
Yeah, sure. So there are certainly a lot of politics because, it's been said that if real estate's your industry, then politics is your business.
Okay.
And that's true because one of the things that we do at the Missouri Association of Realtors is a lot of legislative activity.
Okay.
So we're going up to Capitol Hill, we're meeting with legislators, the governor, the lieutenant governor, other elected officials, and certainly our local elected officials and state officials too, and U.S. senators, congressmen, and women, and all of that, just to talk about the issues that are relevant to us as Missouri Realtors.
That's awesome. So kind of, in a sense, lobbying for the entire community of realtors, right?
Yeah, absolutely, and private property rights because, even, if you own a home, you have an interest in the work that we do as realtors. And in fact, one of our big successes for 2018 was the passage of the first-time home buyer savings account legislation. So what will happen is beginning January 1st, potential first-time home buyers will have an opportunity to save in a tax-free way for their down payment for the first time. So it's similar to like a education savings account, only for home ownership. Because what we know is that home ownership is the bedrock of our civilization. So if we can help people get involved in home ownership, then they're much better prepared for other opportunities and success in their lives.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, and as a millennial, I can appreciate, having a tax break on saving for your first house, right? That's definitely good. So let's talk about some of those other positions, right?
Sure.
So I know you're obviously very busy as the president this year, but you have your own real estate team as well, right? So you're still active in the selling and buying of houses too. So tell me about your team.
Yeah, sure. So the Real Estate Solutions Group at RedKey Realty Leaders is my residential group of agents. So I say we're a team, but we're more like a company inside of a company. With the way that we operate. And because I was an independent broker for over 15 years before joining RedKey. And, RedKey is an amazing company. I'm certainly happy to be affiliated with them. But a lot of the things that we do, we've always done. So we just sort of moved some of those services and sort of layered on the benefits that RedKey provides within the context of what we do at Real Estate Solutions, which is great. So we're just able to provide much more value to our clients and customers and other realtors that are on our team as well. And that's what we do every day. We help people achieve their real estate goals, helping buyers of real estate, sellers of real estate, investors of real estate. And that's another hat that I wear as independent broker of Real Estate Solutions, which still exists as a commercial and property management company.
Really?
And so we're able to offer those cradle-to-grave services for all of our clients, whether it's investing in your first home or rental property, multifamily buildings, all that good stuff. We're able to take care of our clients and make sure that they're looked after throughout the process.
Yeah, that's great. I'm going to have to ask you off camera about your time management strategy, because you got a lot you're accomplishing. That's impressive. So I know you're also a little bit more involved directly at RedKey with some agent development stuff as well. So tell me a little bit about that role and how do you fit that into the schedule?
Sure. Yeah. I'm very passionate about that as well. Anything real estate related, I'm pretty passionate about, quite honestly, Nick. But my agent development work with RedKey is just really provided a level of engagement for me in helping other agents achieve the level of success that they have in mind for themselves. It's just been extremely rewarding because the things that, I'm learning things so that I can teach them, so that they can be better realtors. So as a result, it helps me and my group be better realtors as well. But it's great because, I've been a realtor now for 20 years and, I've got a lot of designations, a tremendous amount of training, and, I'm blessed to be able to go all over the country talking with realtors about things like professional development, business development, leadership and code of ethics, fair housing, a variety of different things. So I bring that back home here to St. Louis when I'm coaching and training the agents at RedKey. There's just so much that goes on in real estate. It's very important to isolate different components of this business so that we can focus on them individually. Because especially for a new realtor, and of course I coach and train both new realtors and seasoned veterans because we all need a coach. I've got a coach, my coach has a coach, everybody should have one because we often don't know what opportunities are ahead of us or available to us until we have someone else sort of looking at that with us. And by having a coach or someone training you, someone that you can talk with in a consistent way, you're really able to identify the opportunities that are available for you, and it helps you with your accountability. And it's not that your coach or trainer is who's making you accountable, it's just that they're there, and you know that you're going to show up and have this meeting, so you better get it in order and be prepared to have the conversation and do the things that you set in mind for yourself that you were going to have accomplished to get to the level of success that you've got.
Yeah, and I know that can be powerful, just knowing that you have to tell somebody what you've been up to, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You're still holding yourself accountable, but that's a big tool there. So, well, that leads pretty well into actually one of the things I wanted to dive into a little bit more with you today, and that is talking about, we're getting close to 2019, right? It seems like things are changing a little bit in the real estate market in the way that they maybe haven't in the past few years. So as you're looking forward, and obviously if you're coming from a pretty high level, you might be seeing some things in the industry that the typical agent might not. What should we be looking ahead to? Like what should we be aware of that might be happening in 2019?
Well, it's interesting, Nick, because I get that question often from people. The market seems like it may be shifting a little bit. What should I be doing differently? And what I'll say to realtors is the fundamentals are so important that there's no magic bullet. It's really about getting up every day and doing your grind and doing the things that you said you were going to do. And as long as you're consistent, you're going to have the level of success that you've got in mind for yourself. Now, having said that, we are shifting our market a little bit. It seems that we're moving from a heavy seller's market into more of a buyer's market, which is kind of interesting considering the fact that we still have an inventory shortage in St. Louis. So it's a weird sort of environment that we've been in. I just attended the National Association of Realtors conference in Boston, and Chief Economist Dr. Lawrence Yun was discussing how our market looks, and he believes that we're not going to shift because of the inventory shortage that still exists nationwide. He believes that although interest rates are climbing a little bit, that's not really going to change the mentality and the appetite for home ownership from potential first-time home buyers and move-up buyers. But the reality right now is we're seeing things a little bit different. Now that's possible because we're getting into the winter and things just sort of naturally slow down this time of year. But it's also possibly because of the attitude that buyers have that their inventory doesn't exist, so they are putting off home ownership. And by them putting off home ownership, potential first-time home buyers are renewing leases. So we're seeing that. So they've given up on their search. They're giving up on achieving home ownership this year or even next year in many cases. Wow. So they may be putting it off for a year. So we're seeing quite a bit of that in the market. And what we know is that we've got this weird perfect storm with our inventory, which is that our second-time homeowners, people who have bought their first home, sold that first home, and moved into that second home, those are the houses that we need to loosen up in the market.
Sure.
And those folks aren't moving because those folks don't have to move because they're in the home where perhaps they've raised their children, maybe they've got a little bit more space than they wanted to have, but they don't have to move. It's really the first-time homeowners that are in a position where they kind of have to move because they're starting to have children and things like that. So they get to a space where they're just out of room. So they really want to make that move. Sure. Whereas somebody who has more space than they need can be a little bit more selective with the time that they want to move. So now as we see interest rates starting to rise, that sort of hampers that even more because now for someone to move from that home to their next space, they're not going to have as much buying power as they're enjoying in their current home because of an interest rate, because of the rise in interest rates. So that's something that we've got to look at. But at the end of the day, and as I mentioned, I've been in this business now for nearly 20 years. Next year will be my 20-year anniversary.
Wow.
I hope to have a party. I think I'll have a party.
Yeah.
So 20 years. So I've seen a lot. And, I went through the Great Recession that we had and the housing crisis in 2007, 2008. And that was a long time. So we went from 2007 to about 2011 before we started to see our market shift. Okay, so two things happened in 2011. The Cardinals won the World Series for the last time. I was president of the St. Louis Association of Realtors in 2011. Okay. And our market started to shift. I take credit for the World Series.
Oh, okay.
I take credit for that.
That's a good one, right? Yeah.
So our market started to shift in a positive way.
Sure.
So my point with that is we had a horrible real estate market in 8, 9, and 10. Okay. But when we focused on those fundamentals, we were able to successfully put ourselves in front of buyers and sellers of real estate. There were still transactions happening. Although our market, lost a lot of value, we weren't as bad as a lot of the markets in the coasts. And, the people that have been here are still here. The people that were focusing on those fundamentals and not chasing that shiny penny are the ones that last in this business. So that kind of gets back to my advice about a shifting market is to figure out what it is that you're going to focus on. How are you going to be successful in this business and make sure that you continue to keep your eyes on that because that's what's going to continue to make you successful. I'll give you a stat. What we know from buyers and sellers of real estate is that 64% of all buyers and sellers of real estate choose their real estate agent based on two factors. They choose their real estate agent based on recommendation from a friend, family member, coworker, neighbor, or they worked with that realtor in the past. Okay. So 64% of the market is coming from relationships that realtors have with people. So this is a relationship business, so that's what we need to make sure that we're focusing on. Okay. And when we're focusing on that, we have to ask ourselves, so how do we get in front of people? And that's where the marketing comes in. Okay. That's really where the marketing comes in because we need people to do 4 things. We need them to know us, we need them to like us, and we need them to trust us. But as importantly as all 3 of those things is that we need them to remember us. Yeah. And the way that we get them to remember us is to constantly be in front of them, providing value, relevant information for them so that they know that when they have a real estate need or when they know someone that has a real estate need, they're going to contact us.
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
Yeah, that's what we need to have
top
happen.
of mind for sure.
Top of mind, absolutely.
Well, I think what's interesting too is, a lot of times the higher up, top performers you talk to, it's almost like the simpler the things are that they do, right? So you're talking about fundamentals. I think it's tempting to always chase the latest fad or trend.
Yeah.
But as you're saying, I mean, there's 64%, right?
That's
I mean,
right.
The large majority of business comes from those existing relationships, right?
That's correct.
So I guess what should an agent be focused on there? What are some of the fundamentals that they need to be doing every single week?
An agent should focus on their sphere of influence.
Okay.
And so the number one thing that I would advise an agent to focus on is make sure that their database is organized. Okay. You've got to get your database organized and using a CRM. A customer relationship manager. And I don't care what it is. And this is where sometimes agents get stuck is because they say, well, I don't know if I should use this CRM or this CRM or that CRM. The best CRM is the one that you're going to use. So it really doesn't matter because they're all going to do basically the same things. Some of them are going to do more than what you'll ever need them to do. But it's important just to focus on what you're going to use. And often many companies will provide a CRM. That's great. RedKey, we provide a CRM for all of the agents to use. So at no additional cost. So that's the one that they use and it does everything that it needs to do, that you need it to do. Because that's the most important thing is to get that database organized. Because once you get it organized, then you can take the next step, which is the communication part of it. Communicating with your database, getting into the groove with your database, as I like to say. And that's important, and we can only do that once we've got it organized because then we know how we're touching people and how we're, working to create and maintain that top of mind awareness. Because what we need to do is make sure that we've got the frequency of interaction with them. And we need to know who we have and how often we're getting in front of them. And we develop a plan that is going to articulate and inform us on how we're going to communicate with our sphere of influence. And we build that out for the course of the year so that we know that every day, this is what I'm doing. Every week, this is what I'm doing. Every month, this is what I'm doing. Every year, this is what I'm doing. So there are certain things that you're going to do because, the studies show that in order to maintain top of mind awareness, you need to be in touch with someone at least 30 times a year. At least 30 times a year to maintain it. Now, to create the top of mind awareness from somebody that you've just met, we talk about an 8-in-8 communication system. So they need to hear from you about 8 times in the first 8 to 12 weeks from meeting you. In order to sort of solidify that. And then from that moment forward, you want to communicate with them again about 30 times over the course of a 12-month period. And that's going to keep you at that top of mind awareness. And of course, it all varies. It all varies depending on who else is in their sphere. But generally speaking, 30 times a year kind of gets you there. Now, for me and my group, we communicate with our A-list over 50 times a year. 50 times is our bottom line metric that we use as far as communication because we want to make sure that we've got that top of mind awareness for them because these are our A-list. And our A-list are the folks that are referring us business, that are telling their friends and family about how we can help them. And we know that that's how our business thrives. Every household knows 4 people that are going to transact a real estate, that are going to make a real estate decision every year. So if we think for every household, 4 people. So I just want to make sure that me and my group get a piece of that action. And we do that by creating and maintaining the top of mind awareness, by demonstrating our knowledge of the real estate market, which is the trust part, and by them getting to know us. And they know that we have their best interest in mind, so they feel comfortable telling their friends and family about how we can help them.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I think that one thing a lot of agents struggle with, though, when it comes to this stuff is what to do. So, like, what should I be saying? How should I be saying it? If I'm supposed to remind them of myself 30 times at least in a year, do I just send them 30 postcards? So can you give us some pointers? Like what are some of the things you do to stay in front of these folks?
Well, Nick, I'll tell you, early on, I had a lot of trouble with that because I've always seen myself as more of a consultant as opposed to a salesman. And I didn't want to come across as a salesman. I didn't want to just be sending people this stuff all the time just to be in front of them. So for me, I wanted to figure out a way, well, how can I do this so that I'm not annoying? The way that we do that is by providing value, providing relevant information to them, For example, I send out a monthly e-letter, opportunities, and actually I've started sending that out to realtors as well. And this e-letter isn't really about real estate, because what I know is that unless you're thinking about buying or selling a home now or in the next 6 months or so, you don't care about real estate.
Sure.
So it doesn't do me any good to send you something about real estate when you don't care about it, because I want you to open it, I want you to read it. But what it does, it allows me to drip in a little information about real estate, and it works to keep me top of mind for the folks that are receiving the letter. But the letter talks about things that are going on in St. Louis, things that I'm passionate about, things that they can go out and enjoy our beautiful city and our beautiful region. And those are the types of things that I like to focus on, and that's what I have found that has resonated with the people within my sphere of influence.
Gotcha.
Now, with that, of course, I also give real estate information. And, when we think about using an example from Larry Kendall from the Ninja system, he talks about the art and science. So what we want to do is we want to demonstrate our value and our knowledge through art and science. The art is, of course, what I just mentioned, like the opportunities letter, which talks about things not necessarily relating to real estate. Many people in the past have sent out recipe cards. Don't do that, please. But, that's something that people have done in the past. That's an example of art. That's the art. And then the science are things like market statistics, real estate reviews, neighborhood updates, market updates, those types of things that demonstrate your knowledge in real estate. Proof of success pieces, those types of things. Sending them a postcard showing your new listing that you've got on the market. Putting a Facebook post or video or something like that, demonstrating the home that you just listed for sale or the family you just help achieve home ownership. Those types of things, sort of demonstrating that proof of success. That's going to fall into the science part of it. So what we want to do is have that blend of art and science, because this is a relationship business. And when we blend that art and science, then it works to sort of achieve all of those components of that know, like, trust, and remember components.
Very cool. So I think one thing that stands out to me there is you're talking about, providing value to your audience, right? So it's actually understanding what they want and not what you want necessarily, right?
Yes.
So, because I think I've seen a lot of agents. I'm actually on a lot of these. I never said I wanted to be on these email news lists, but I am. And I get a lot of these newsletters that are just about real estate every single week almost. And it's like, I don't need this, right? And people tune out over time, right? If you keep saying stuff that they're not interested, they're just going to stop listening, right? So do you do anything to kind of figure out, what some of the people from your A-list, want to hear? Did you do a process there? How did you decide, what kind of stuff to share that wasn't real estate related?
Yeah, that's a great question, Nick. And I'll tell you, one of the things that I work hard to do is understand who is in my SOI, who is my audience. And I make sure to blend those things in. For example, if we go back to the e-letter, opportunities, what I focus on doing is making sure that every month when I send that letter out, there's something in that letter that's going to speak to everyone that's in my database. Because, I may have, younger millennials and, and Generation Z clients that have just recently purchased a home. So I want to make sure that I'm talking to them. I've got young couples without children. I want to make sure I'm talking to them. I've got couples with children. I want to make sure I'm talking to them. I've got empty nesters. I've got, I've got single people. I've got single younger people, single older people. So I look in there and I want to make sure that I'm touching all of those, all of those folks. Oprah Winfrey said that she's got an ideal viewer. When they used to produce the Oprah show, her name was Susie. And they would ask themselves that question when they were putting together the show notes and developing the content for the show. They would say, well, what would Susie think? What would Susie think? Because that's their audience. And they had Susie identified as a person, and what was going on. And they wanted to make sure that they were catering their content to her. So that's exactly what I do. And I grade my database in that way as well. And this is where your CRM comes in handy, because I know that I can, so if you're in financial services, I've got you coded in my CRM, financial services. So anytime something comes up that I find fascinating from the financial services sector, I can simply hit a couple keystrokes and it's going to pull up everybody in my SOI that's in financial services. So I can send them that content specifically. Similarly with healthcare or with attorneys or, with marketing folks, right?
Sure, yeah.
I could tailor the content to them. So in addition to the sort of general opportunities letter that they get, which is going to touch them, by the way,
Sure.
they can also get specific content that I identify that's going to speak to them specifically because of their industry sector, also perhaps because of the things that we've talked about, because I'm going to have conversations. I work to have at least one conversation, one live conversation with everybody on my A-list every year. So by having that one conversation, I get a sense of what's going on in their lives, whether
Sure.
their family's planning vacations, maybe somebody's graduating from high school, somebody's thinking about a new career change, all these different things. I input that in to my system so that I can communicate with them in an intelligent way.
Sure.
And in an honest way, because I kind of lose sight of the fact that I'm a realtor with this, because what happens is it's about staying connected with people.
Sure.
And helping to provide value. So for me, it's about, okay, how can I help people achieve their real estate goals? Great. All right, so let's take the real estate part out of that. How can I help people achieve their goals? Because that's what I'm really about. So if I talk to one of the folks that are in my SOI who I've helped buy a home or help sell a home, or maybe they've told their brother about how I can help them, and I ask them, what's the biggest challenge that you're facing? What's going on in your life? What's new? I ask them all of these questions, then I'm going to get some of these nuggets that I can help them with.
Yeah.
So there's going to be a little bit of pain there or a little bit of pleasure there, and those things I can use in a positive way to
Sure.
help them get to their next level, whatever that may be. And they're grateful for it. People are grateful for that.
Oh, I bet,
and
yeah.
and it's kind of a selfish thing too, because there's a very rewarding feeling that I get in helping somebody. When you help connect somebody with a new career opportunity or with a new vacation spot that they didn't think about before, when they're thinking about where they're going to take their kids,
Yeah.
Over summer break. You make those connections, or you connect them with somebody that's going to give them information about the type of industry that they're thinking about getting into. Those types of things, that's very powerful.
Sure.
They're grateful for it. I'm grateful that they entrusted me to help provide that connection for them, so it helps them get to the next level.
Yeah.
And it works out very well. It's a beautiful life, Nate. I
Yeah,
love it.
that's great. Yeah, it sounds like you're enjoying it too. So
Absolutely.
That's good. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, I think that's, you're talking about relationships, right?
Yes.
And I think it's actually something I see a lot when we talk with people about the idea of social media itself. And they think that they have to behave a certain way and do all these, what's the tactics and things like that. And what it boils down to is just be a human,
That's right.
Just build
Yes.
relationships, help people, if they ask for recommendations, comment and respond to them, do anything you can to be beneficial in some way. Which is just what you do in real life, right?
That's right.
And that's obviously what the focus is here. So we're almost out of time, but I did want to ask you about one thing that I heard you mention in a presentation a couple weeks ago.
Okay.
I thought this was really interesting. You were talking about the top 3 things that a seller would rank when they're kind of reviewing what their agent does for them. And it was interesting what was number 1, because it wasn't quite what you would expect. So you want to kind of dive into that a little bit for us? What are those 3 things that they're looking for?
Sure. Yeah. So the number one thing that sellers are looking for from the agent that they hire to represent them is to market their home. Number 2 is to sell the home. Okay. Number 1 is to market it.
Yeah.
Number
that's
2 to
crazy.
sell it.
Yeah.
And then number 3 is to price it competitively.
Okay.
Okay. So when we talk about number 1, it's marketing, of course.
Sure.
Number 2, sell it. And then number 3 is market knowledge, and the knowledge of that by pricing it in an appropriate way.
Yeah.
So what that tells us is that when we're dealing with a seller, when we're talking with a seller, we need to make sure that we're highlighting those 3 things. We're going to talk about our marketing expertise and the things that we're going to do to put their home in front of as many qualified buyers as possible, because that's what they want to know about first. And then we want to talk about how we're going to sell the home and what that process looks like. And we're going to talk about how we're going to price the home. Those are the 3 things that we want to focus on. And what happens sometimes with us as realtors, especially when we're in a hot seller's market, is we lose sight of the marketing because we know the home is going to sell. We say, this home is in a wonderful neighborhood. We're going to throw a sign in the yard, put in the MLS, do a little bit of advertising and marketing, and boom, we're going to get multiple offers and we're going to sell it.
Yeah.
And that's great and then we say to our seller, we go, well, we sold the house. We did what you wanted us to do. And the seller is happy, of course, but in the back of their minds, and maybe even not in the back of their minds, in the front of their minds, they're thinking, man, I just paid this realtor all this money and all they did was put a sign in the yard. The home sold like that. So that's why we have to make sure that we are we're working our marketing plan, and we're doing all the things that we said that we were going to do to achieve a successful outcome for the seller. Because that achieves a couple of goals for us. One is that it helps the seller understand that we're doing all these things to put their home in front of as many buyers as possible, so they see our marketing, so that we become more referable. Because now they can go and tell their friends and family about all the things that we did to help them sell their home.
Gotcha.
Because if we don't do all of those things, then they don't have the story to tell. We've deprived them of the opportunity of telling the story about how great we are in helping them achieve that goal. So that's one outcome. And then the other outcome from our marketing efforts is agent focused, because the first part was property focused. We market the property, and we do all of those things in an effort to sell the property, in an effort to generate multiple offers, do all these things, and satisfy the seller who has that expectation of us. But then we also do a lot of those things to market ourselves. Because when we list a property for sale, we typically have about 5 opportunities to market the property. And those opportunities tend to be when the property is coming soon. So before the property is actually on the market, that's our first shot at it. We could communicate not only with the neighborhood that the home is located in, but also our SOI. And Nick, that's a place where we fall short sometimes. We go, wow, this house is in South County. Most of my SOI is in West County in the city of St. Louis. Why would I send them a postcard about a house that I'm selling in South County? It's proof of success. They want to see that we're in business and that we're having success in this business. And that helps to create and maintain that top of mind awareness for us. So we want to send that to everybody. So that's one area where we get to market the property, is the coming soon. Then we've got the open house. So the open house, our opening open house, is another opportunity to market that property. The home is available now. That's a third opportunity, and actually even vice versa. So the now listed open house. And then we've got a new price. So if we've got a pricing adjustment that occurs, we can market that opportunity as well. And then we've got another opportunity there when it is closed, when the property actually closes. We've got a 6th opportunity before that, which is when the property goes under contract. When the sale is pending. That's another opportunity. So at very minimum, we've got 5 opportunities, even if we don't have the price adjustment in there, and we just replace that with the sale pending opportunity. So at minimum, we've got 5 opportunities. And that's why it's been said that you got to list to last. Because when we list properties, we have an opportunity to generate so much more business as a result of leveraging that property that we put on the market. So that's why that marketing becomes so important for the sellers, and why we don't want to lose the opportunity to market the property to its fullest, whether we know it's going to sell on the first day or not. We still want to do it.
Yeah, you got to do all the steps, right?
Yes.
So speaking of those steps in particular, I know that if you look at what an agent on average is going to do to promote the property, right? There's certain things that most agents do, and then there's maybe a few that are less common and maybe big opportunities right now. So those in particular, what are a couple of things that a lot of agents aren't doing to promote a property that could be big opportunities?
Yeah, so when we look at the list of where agents are focusing their marketing, sign in the yard, putting it on the MLS, those sorts of things are certainly there. But when we start, and those are in the 80%, 90%, 40% sort of wheelhouse with those sorts of things. But once we jump from about 45% to 17% and into less than 20% numbers when we start talking about social media and video. And those are important things that most agents aren't doing. And what we want to do is make sure that we are demonstrating these unique points of differentiation to our client. And we want to let them know that. We're going to market your property on social media. We're going to market your property using video. Those are the types of things that not everybody's doing. So if you are sitting across the table and talking with a seller who may be interviewing more than one agent, you want to let them know that. And I say they may be interviewing more than one agent, you want to let them know that, but the reality is, getting back to the know, like, and trust, and remember, is that most consumers are not interviewing more than one agent.
Sure.
Most of them are talking to one person. So where this value really comes in is when they're having a conversation with their friend or at a dinner party with somebody else who may be in the process right now of selling their home or has recently sold their home. And you've empowered them by giving them all the things that you're going to do to market that home. So now they can intelligently sell what you're able to provide. Because if I'm standing there and I've got a home to sell and I've got two people that have had recent experiences, and one is talking about all the things that their agent is doing to market the property, and the other one said, well, they just put the sign in the yard, I don't really know what else they're doing. You know, I think I'm going to go with the one who's talking about all the marketing that's being done, because again, the number one thing that I would want as a seller is my home marketed. Right? So it all goes back to that. And that's why we have to make sure that we're telling that story about what we are doing to market the property in addition to actually doing it.
Yeah, and I imagine it turns people into advocates. Right now they're out there going, hey, my agent did these things I've never seen before, and I'm going to go tell my friends and family about them. Right?
Absolutely, yeah, because that's what it's all about.
Sure.
We want to take our community and build a walking community of ambassadors.
Yeah.
You know, we want everybody in our SOI to be shouting our praises from the rooftop and telling other people about how we can help them achieve their real estate goals. And if we're doing that, and we're creating those raving fans, if you will, then that's all we got to do. That's all we got to do is make sure that we're getting people to know us, like us, trust us, and remember us.
All right.
That's it. That's all we got to do.
I like it. It sounds simple, you know. I mean, you have a way of talking about it, and I appreciate that, because I think people do overcomplicate it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes you think too hard, and it's like, it's just a couple fundamentals and go do them, right?
That's right. That's right.
All right. Well, I think we're about out of time, but I definitely appreciate you coming in today. It was a great conversation.
Yeah,
Thank you for joining us, especially on our inaugural episode. So
yes.
Appreciate the favor there. For those of you watching, I mean, this is our very first episode of The Real Marketing Show. We'd love to get your feedback. So if you leave us a comment and just let us know what you thought of our very first show, if there's anything you think we could do better or different, we'd love to hear about it. Thank you for tuning in, and please join us again next week.